So, okay, I'm going to quote from a few scriptures about the Buddha and the picture that they give of the Buddha. The Buddha was very much consulted by the rich and famous of his day, and not so much on spiritual matters. You see, his spiritual sermons are mostly those that he gave to his own monks. The stories he told to outsiders sometimes contain matters of behavior, of proper behavior, of dharma, as Hindus say, and very often they don't. They are concerned with very worldly matters. And so let's discuss a few of those before we move on to the more spiritual part. The Buddha, as is generally known, was the son of the president for life of the Shakya Republic. I can't say the king of the Shakya Republic because it was a republic. But you see, once you were the head of state, you were supposed to remain so until death. Now that put the Buddha in an excellent position to become his successor. He was already a member of the ruling, of the assembly, the senate, so to speak, of the Shakya Republic since 20 years of age. And he was very good. You see, this much is very clear, both from his political interventions in his young days and his advice later on. He was an elite character par excellence. Even physically, he is described as very white and very tall. And maybe that explains, not altogether, but it partly explains his great popularity among Nazi India lovers. And there were a few. But it's mostly because he was an elite character, and he frankly used the word Arya. Europeanized as Aryan. Arya originally meant the Vedic tribe, the Pauravas. You see the word Arya, many people will say in India, oh, it means noble. Well, yes and no. It came to mean noble after several developments. Originally, it means us as opposed to them. So the Vedic tribe called themselves Arya and called all the others Anarya. By contrast, the neighboring Iranian tribe called themselves Arya and all the others, including the Vedic tribe, Anarya. So it is a relative, self-referential ethnic term. Now, when the Vedas became prestigious and neighboring tribes tried to become part of the Vedic civilization, the word Arya came to mean specifically that tribe that had started the Vedas. So Arya more or less means Vedic. Then, when the caste system grew, originally in the family books of the Rig Veda, there is no caste system at all. But when the caste system grew, it was the three upper castes who received the Vedic initiation. And so the word Arya also came to mean elite, the three upper castes. Now in English, the word noble originally means upper class, part of the nobility, earls and dukes and so on. And later it acquired a more general moral meaning, of good character, self-control. And in India, exactly the same evolution took place. The Buddha perhaps had a part, had a role to play in this evolution. So from meaning upper class as a social category, it came to mean upper class as a moral category. You see, the best people, the most moral people, the people with most self-control, with most sense of duty, they were Arya. So that's a later development. But originally there is very much the sociological connotation of elite. And when the Buddha applied the term, that connotation was still very much there. So it is not such an innocent matter when he calls his own basic observation of life the Four Noble Truths, the Chatvari Arya Satyani. You see, he calls them Arya. He could have called them anything. He could have called them dharmic or something. But no, he called them Arya. And the word has a very specific meaning. And nowadays they say, oh yeah, it means just noble. No, originally it had a very specific meaning linked to the Vedas. Or similarly the Arya Ashtangika Marga. You see, the Noble Eightfold Path. You know, that is quintessentially Buddhist. And yet it has a reference to the Vedas. Now, you see some people, like for instance Richard Gombrich from Oxford, say, yeah, you know, he used a lot of Brahminical terms, but in a new meaning. Yeah, to some extent that may be true. But you see, the meaning Arya was so strong and persisted even after him that he could not ignore it. He could not just say, oh, from now on the word white shall mean black. So if he used the word Arya and used it insistently and on many occasions and for very important concepts, it clearly still has a reference to the Vedas. However, you might say, you see, and this is something many Hindu reformists say, and you know, it's a very easy and superficial thing to say, but I think at heart it is correct, that the Buddha saw the Vedas as an ideal from the distant past. I mean, in his age they must have been already a closed corpus for 1,000 years. That, you see, was linked with certain ideals, a certain very good, very positive way of life, but that had degenerated. And so he saw himself as restoring the old ways. And this is not very special. In fact, this is very common. You see, all the reformers in world history, all those who started something new, made their own new teachings more acceptable by calling them old. So the Buddha says in so many words, you see, these are the 4 Vedic truths, and I am teaching you the eightfold Vedic path. And you see, whatever they had to do with the Vedas, he didn't know the Vedas very well. He knew the Upanishads, he quotes from the Upanishads. You know, what he just meant to say is the Vedas were alright, and what I'm teaching is very alright. But you see what some people have made of the Vedas, and here he partly refers to the Brahmins around him. You see, that is degenerate. That is probably true. Because after all, there is a difference between the Buddha and the Brahmins around him. First of all, their social status. The Buddha was a Kshatriya. It was a different caste. And so caste plays a certain role, not a very big role. You see, nowadays, there are a few sermons by the Buddha that pertain to caste, that say, for instance, that you're not a Brahmin by birth, but by behavior, that everybody can, you know, everybody has the same dharma. You know, this is the Buddha, the Bauddha dharma, and everybody can practice it. It's just a matter of practicing. It's just like on a battlefield, and you see, this is the Kshatriya element in it. On a battlefield, nobody's going to ask you, are you a duke, or are you a coal miner, or what? You see, if you strike a blow that kills the enemy, okay, then you've won, whoever you are, and whoever he is. And so similarly, if you practice meditation, no matter who you are, you will get the results. So that in a way is a Kshatriya outlook. That has to be said. And so caste at that time was not as pervasive as it was later, but still it was already there. And it is interesting to see what the Buddha's own attitude towards caste in practice was. Because they teach the sermons, or they quote the sermons in all these anti-Hindu writings. They say, the Buddha was against caste. Well, first of all, these sermons are not at all representative for everything that the Buddha taught. They're only a very small part that is lifted out, because all the rest is about spirituality, is about meditation. And most of these anti-Hindu crusaders are not at all interested in meditation. You see, they think it's like Ambedkar. Ambedkar was a great man, but his view on Buddhism was very one-sided, was very warped. He saw the Buddha as a social reformer and so on. And he thought that the religious Buddha, the spiritual Buddha, was a bit of a nuisance. That, okay, we have to take it in stride, but really the Buddha was a social reformer. Well, no, the Buddhist canon is mostly about meditation and the attitude, the behavior that goes with it, and not at all about social structures.